Hi friends, welcome to the Miss Ink Stamps YouTube channel. This is Lauren Taylor and I'm grateful to have you here for a card making video. Today I'm going to be featuring some products from the Magic Collection. I have the Under the Stairs A2 Scene die, the Alice background stencils, which I guess technically aren't magic, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to use them, the Socks stencils, Laundry Love stamp and coordinating die, and the Letters stamp set and coordinating die. I've done my stamping and coloring and lots of die cutting because today I'm going to focus on using the layering stencils to create a scene and just how I'm going to assemble my scene. So I did bring in the Alice background stencils, but I'm just going to use the two diamond patterns. I'm not going to use the heart to create a fun wallpaper design for my Under the Stairs A2 scene die. So I'm going to trim a piece of white cardstock down to a little larger than A2. I think it's going to be 4.5 by 5 3/4. And I'm using some repositionable low tack tape to keep my paper in place on the back of the stencil. I'm grabbing some Minty Fresh ink from Simon Hurley and Ranger ink, and I'm using a blending brush to add some of that color through the first stencil, which has the large diamond pattern. And I'm going to go down about 2/3 of the way. I don't need to fully cover this scene, just enough that it will be the background of my staircase of the Under the Stairs scene. I'm going to take the second stencil, which has the smaller diamonds, and I'm going to go ahead and stencil more of that Minty Fresh color through the stencil, again 2/3 of the way down, and I'm going to add that to the white. So it's going to have a fun, kind of unique diamond design. And again, I'm creating a fun wallpaper. Now I don't want any white necessarily on my wallpaper, so I'm going to bring in again that Minty Fresh ink and add another like very light covering or light layer of this same ink color just to darken up the white areas of that stencil. And I think it creates a really pretty design, again going for like a wallpaper look. I'll go ahead and peel off that mint tape and I'll set those aside, and I'm going to grab a die. I'm going to use the Eieio frame die set, and I'm taking the smaller of the dies that do not have any details, so no stitching and no scallop, just the regular die. And I went ahead and die cut that out. And I'm going to use the die pieces from the Under the Stairs A2 scene die to start creating my scene. So I've die cut all of the images or design from that die set using some Kraft cardstock, and I'm going to start with the ground rectangular piece, and then I'll start adding the cupboard pieces. Now the dies are now larger or wider than my scene, but that's okay. I'm going to trim them down once I have everything in place. And I do remember later that I did want to darken my ground piece, so it just gives a little bit more distinction of where the ground is for my scene, but I will color that later with some masking. So I added my cover pieces, my stair railings, and then I'm adding the details of those cupboards. I love that the large cupboard on the left can it has a score line, so you can open it and make it an interactive panel, but I just glued everything down. We're not going to make this card interactive today. I stamped the picture frame images from the Letters stamp set, and I did use the die to start cutting them out, but I did fussy cut out all 3 of those pictures so I can add them as pictures on my stairs, like a hallway. Just having those family photos, well, of everyone but the boy, of course, that's going to be featured on this card. But I wanted to create a little gallery like it's going up the stairs, so I added those. One frame is sitting on the fireplace mantle, so I'm just using a white gel pen to get rid of those excess lines that I didn't need. And I will now work on trimming off those extra pieces so it fits onto the panel that I die cut using the frame die set. I started with scissors but realized that my guillotine trimmer would be a little easier, so now I have the cupboard scene, the stairway scene just on that panel that I stenciled. So here is where I remembered that I did want to color the ground or the like wood flooring in my head of this design with a darker color. So I'm adding that repositionable tape as a mask, And I'm going to grab Weeping Willow Simon Hurley Ranger ink, this ink pad, and I'm just going to use a blending brush and darken the ground of that Kraft paper. And that just gives a little bit more dimension and a little bit of separation from the ground to the cupboards along the stairway. So now I'm going to finish adding in my last die cut portion of my scene, which is going to be my little potted plant. I love this little potted plant from this die set, but I wanted to make sure I had plenty of room for my characters, so I'm just doing a little dry run of putting them in place while I glue my plant inside of the pot. I did use some green cardstock for the plant and then some sage cardstock that I thought matched the ink that I chose for the wallpaper really well. So I went ahead and glued those in place. Now my background is ready, but I'm going to pop up my images that I've stamped and colored. So let's add those last. I want to work on one more layer for my card. I'm going to do a top folding A2 card, and as you can see, I have quite a bit of background, and I thought it'd be fun to bring in those socks. Now at this point in time, my little magical wizard boy here doesn't know that he could give his little elf friend some socks, but he because it's such a pivotal point to the story for this elf, I wanted to just add a really subtle sock background to the card. So again, this is the socks stencils, and I'm starting with the solid images of the socks and a piece of A2 white cardstock. And I'm using cookie dough, which is from Ranger and Simon Hurley, and adding a very light layer of that pale kind of brown ink to the edges of this panel. I don't need to do the whole panel because a lot of it, if not, well, most of it, will be covered by the scene that I've already created. So I just want to focus on the edges. I'm taking the next stencil and I'm lining up the designs for the socks. I just think it's so cute, all the different types of socks in this layered stencil set. And I'm going to bring back that Minty Fresh, and I'm going to again just focus on the edges of this panel and add in the details of the socks. So it has just a very light color. It matches still the elements that I have on the other panel that I've created with the brown and minty colors. I love a good stencil reveal, so let's see how cute these socks turned out. They're very pastel. I love it a lot. It's just like matching the color scheme of the foreground or the front panel that I've created, so it's going to blend right in with the rest of the card. This panel is larger than A2. Again, I think it's about 4.5 by 5 3/4. So I'm going to take the A2 die from the Eieio frame die set. Again, there's no details on it, just an A2 die. It's a really great basic die set. And I attach that panel to my top folding cardstock, and I'll use my tape runner again to attach my under the stairs scene to the card front as well. Now I'm going to grab foam adhesive and I'm going to attach all of my stamp and colored images to the front of the card using that foam adhesive. So I'm going to get my characters in place, and I'll start with a little stack of letters that will be behind my elf's hand or behind his back. And then I'll pop up my elf and I'll pop off my magical wizard to the front of the card. Now, normally I like to add a sentiment to the front, but the sentiment that I wanted to use is quite large. It says, "Just a note so you don't think your friends aren't writing you." And while I think it would be really great, like I said, on the front of the card, it's just a little long. So I'm going to put that on the inside of the card. So I'm going to grab a clear block. I'll try to get that straight and centered on my clear block as best as I can. And then I'm using some black ink. This is Nocturne VersaFine Clair, and I'll go ahead and stamp that on the inside of the card. That will finish this off. Again, this is all using products except for one stencil set from the Magic collection from Miss Ink Stamps. I hope you had fun with me today creating our own stenciled wallpaper and building this fun scene on the front of the card. You can find everything that I've used linked down below. I hope you have a wonderful day, and check out even more inspiration here on the Miss Ink Stamps YouTube channel.